Ladies and gentlemen, the tensions between India and Pakistan currently at least show no signs of ebbing. And as the days pass by, the suspense builds. On top of everyone's mind is the quest to know as to how the two countries will react going forward from here. India is seeing a series of meetings, certain serious calls also from the United States of America. And to decipher or to discuss all of that, I am being joined by John Bolton, former United States National Security Advisor. Mr. Bolton, welcome to NDTV.
Thanks for having me.
And as I said, the topmost question on everyone's mind right now is, how would this pan out from here on? Pakistan has played its dirty game once all over again. And India, of course, is not wanting to take it lying low, as the Prime Minister has expressed. And quite clearly in the Indian reaction would also lay the rest of the story as it pans out. How do you see it, Mr. Bolton, panning out from here?
Well, I think Prime Minister Modi has exercised a good deal of restraint, having been through a similar episode in 2019. I can tell you it was our view then that India certainly had a legitimate right of self-defense, and that when you're faced with a terrorist attack like that, you're entitled to retaliate and to try to eliminate the threat to India and its citizens and foreign visitors. I think India exercised restraint in 2019, and my understanding is this is what the Trump administration in these current days is again saying. It's a very difficult problem. I mean, there's no doubt about the right of self-defense here. The question is whether in the international arena, India can show that it exercised restraint and called on Pakistan to do what Pakistan should do, which is exercise control over its own sovereign territory and make sure that terrorist attacks are not launched from that territory against India or anybody else.
Well, Mr. Bolton, as you said about the Trump administration, and you talked about Trump administration's restraint conversations, Marco Rubio, your Secretary of State, also called both sides. What do you think he would generally be advising, beyond the fact that what was reported that do not escalate it to a larger war or do not escalate it to a larger regional conflict, so to say?
Well, I hope he's carrying beyond that, because 2019 was not the first time this has happened. The history of Kashmir, I'm sure, is well known to your viewers, and it's a continuing source of tension and risk of escalation, indeed, between two nuclear powers. So I think I hate to call this an opportunity, but it's a moment when the U.S. and others could urge both parties to say, look, let's try and find ways to prevent this from happening in the future. And the main thing is to make sure that no country, Pakistan obviously the bordering country, but no country is harboring people planning terrorist activities in Kashmir or anywhere else in India. That's the fundamental point here. There's obviously a long-standing dispute between India and Pakistan. There are diplomatic ways to handle that. Parties, even neighbors, can disagree and disagree strongly, but the resort to terrorism is never an acceptable means of expressing the disagreement, and that's what it's got to come down to. I think that's best served by negotiations in private, out of the spotlight, to see if something can't be worked out that won't just resolve this particular terrorist attack, but prevent them in the future.
Well, Ambassador Bolton, India has every which way tried in the past. Prime Minister, speaking on a podcast recently, also said that he personally invested in building good, friendly relationship with Pakistan. Prior to him, multiple other Prime Minister, heads of state in India have also tried the same trajectory. Almost every time that has been betrayed by one incident or other, like Pahalgam. Extremely serious incidents in nature, which then leave no leeway absolutely with the leaders to have any kind of dealings with Pakistan, forget about friendly dealings. Now, what do you think, keeping in mind this long litany in dealing with Pakistan, what do you think India can do permanently? Of course, look, guarding the sovereign territory or guarding the people is principal responsibility of India when it comes to Indian people. Now, what do you think India can and should do to try and ensure that this Pakistan-sponsored terrorism stops inflicting its wounds on Indian people? What do you think India can do to achieve that?
Well, I think there are two approaches to take, and I'm sure the government of India has already thought about this and done it before, but I just urge a renewed effort. Number one, I'm very concerned about growing Chinese influence in Pakistan. And I think this is something that needs to be put on the table between India and Pakistan to say, look, we should resolve our own differences. We shouldn't be having outsiders come in. We shouldn't be having their agenda, in this case, a Chinese agenda directed against India, being implemented by either of the two of us. I think this is something that the leaders of Pakistan should be concerned about. If they're not already, that point needs to be underlined to them, that you've got interest here that obviously extend beyond preventing further terrorist attacks, and that you intend to protect India's interest. And second, and this will be a difficult task of diplomacy, I think India should go to China and say, listen, we expect you as a bordering country to us, and as someone that we've had good relations with in the past, notwithstanding a lot of conflict along the line of actual control, we expect you to press on Pakistan that they need to get control of these terrorist groups. I think this is these are potential roads to a better solution. If they fail, and they may, you can't guarantee any outcome, then I think India has made a record for the rest of the world to see that they've done what they can, that they've tried the diplomatic route, they've impressed on Pakistan and China the dangers of allowing more of these terrorist attacks that could result in significant escalation if they don't stop. It's not a silver bullet, I acknowledge that, but that's what I would recommend.
And Mr. Bolton, one aspect that, again, most Indian governments have tried, but somehow that has not delivered convincingly, and that is building a unanimity in the International Committee of Nations to build pressure on Pakistan and ensure that state sponsoring of terrorism stops on Pakistani soil. Do you think that international community also has a bigger responsibility and a larger role to play here when it comes to at least, rest of all is between India and Pakistan, but at least stopping the state sponsoring of terrorism?
Well, I think that's obviously the existence of state sponsorship of terrorism is an issue for all civilized countries, and therefore there should be strong support for India's position. It has been over the decades, though, India's traditional view that it doesn't want outside interference in disputes between India and Pakistan over Kashmir, over border issues, over a number of other issues. So you have to be careful in introducing a broader involvement by others. But I think this is where pulling together the facts of what happened in this latest terrorist attack, and I'm sure that's possible to do and important to do, that also helps in building the international record for the rest of the world to see that India is not finding a pretext here to do something. It's simply trying to validate its own sovereignty, protect its citizens.
NSA Bolton, let me ask you my final question on this discussion of ours for now. On the topmost, other than the fact that how India will react is also the fact in most informed minds that were it to be a retaliation by India of the proposition that many are thinking, can that then be contained? Can that be contained, or it will necessarily lead to a conflagration? What is your assessment of that situation? If India were to react, can that be a contained reaction?
Well, I think if India's retaliation was directed against the group that is suspected and likely the sponsor of this terrorist attack in Kashmir, and it was precise and targeted and limited and basically a one-time proposition, I think that would demonstrate that India is serious about protecting its own citizens, serious in saying it won't allow outsiders to interfere, and has no larger ambitions. I think that should give Pakistan a face-saving way to step back, and maybe that would be the moment to get diplomatic negotiations going. India certainly doesn't have to. That's another alternative to consider. It may be that it's not feasible. That would require decision making on the basis of information I don't presently have. But I do think that the current view of the U.S. government that restraint on both sides is important is the right way to approach it.
Right way to approach, but India has a right to self-defense, and if India targets the group particularly concerned with this attack, the world should support India. Mr. John Bolton, former National Security Advisor of the United States of America, thank you very much for joining NDTV.
Glad to be with you.